2 years ago, this was a diabetes drug, a maintenance medication, a script renewed every 3 months by a specialist in an endocrinology unit. Today, it is the fastest growing drug category in the history of pharmaceutical retail, accounting for more than 1 in 8 new prescriptions in several major markets and generating more revenue than the combined output of most Fortune 500 consumer goods companies. 40 million people in the United States alone are now taking, have taken, or are on a waiting list for a GLP-1 receptor agonist, the class of drugs that includes Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. Their appetite is chemically suppressed, their relationship with food fundamentally altered. The food industry did not see it coming, not because the drug was secret and it was not, but because the speed and scale of adoption exceeded every forecast model that snack conglomerates, commodity traders, ingredient suppliers, and distribution networks had built their businesses on. The supply chain built to deliver ultra-processed food to 1 billion consumers is now carrying inventory that its customers no longer want, at the volume they once consumed it. And what happens to that inventory, and where it goes, who buys it, and at what price, is one of the stranger economic stories of this decade. This is that story. Semaglutide is a glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor agonist. It mimics a hormone produced naturally in the gut after eating, a hormone that signals to the brain that the body is full. In a person without obesity or type 2 diabetes, that signal fires reliably. In many patients with those conditions, it does not. Semaglutide was originally approved for type 2 diabetes management in 2017. It worked. Patients taking it for blood sugar control began losing significant amounts of weight as a side effect. The pharmaceutical company that makes it, Novo Nordisk, noticed. In 2021, a higher dose formulation was approved specifically for obesity treatment under the brand name Wegovy. The clinical trials showed average waist loss of 15% of body mass over 68 weeks. For many patients with severe obesity, nothing had ever worked like this. The waiting list began immediately. In the United Kingdom, National Health Service patients waited more than 2 years for access. In the United States, private insurance initially refused coverage. Then, under sustained pressure from endocrinologists and patient advocacy groups, coverage expanded. The shortage of branded product opened the door to compounding pharmacies, licensed facilities that can produce medications from bulk ingredients when branded equivalents are unavailable. Thousands of compounding pharmacies in the United States began producing semaglutide compounds at lower cost and without the waiting list. Below the compounding pharmacies, a less regulated market emerged. Online platforms offering semaglutide injections via asynchronous consultation, a questionnaire answered in 5 minutes, a box arriving by post 3 days later. The FDA has warned against this market. It has not been eliminated. The supply shortage created its own secondary market. People who had legitimate prescriptions could not fill them consistently. People who wanted access and could not get a prescription found ways around the system. And through all of it, the prescriptions, the compounds, the online orders, the grey market alternatives, tens of millions of people fundamentally changed what they ate. The modern supermarket supply chain is one of the most precisely engineered logistical systems in the world. Every product on every shelf is tracked by unit, by facing, by rate of sale, by margin, by promotional uplift, by seasonal variation. The science of shelf space allocation, known as planogram management, fills entire departments at the major retailers. The category manager's job is to maintain the profitability of a shelf. When a product sells consistently, the planogram holds. When it begins to slow, when the rate of sale drops below forecast, the category manager has a problem. The data that supermarket category managers began seeing in 2023 was initially puzzling. Snack categories, crisps, biscuits, confectionery, sugary drinks, ready meals, were softening, not crashing, not collapsing, just slowing. The trend was real, consistent across markets, and could not be explained by price sensitivity alone. The products had been through price increases before without this sustained softness. The conversations between major retailers and their snack category suppliers became difficult. Retailers began pushing back on promotional commitments they had made 6 months earlier. Volume guarantees that had seemed conservative when they were signed now looked optimistic. The first visible signal in the physical store was the gondola end, the premium display position at the end of an aisle, which commands the highest rental rates from manufacturers because of its visibility. Gondola end space for snack categories began contracting. The brands that had held those positions for years found themselves renegotiating, or losing them entirely. The reallocation of shelf space is how the supermarket makes the change visible. When a category softens, the retailer reallocates that real estate to categories that are growing. In 2023 and 2024, that meant fresh produce, protein foods, and functional beverages gaining space at the direct expense of confectionery, crisps, and sugary snacks. Food manufacturers plan production quarters in advance. The ingredients are contracted, the factory runs are scheduled, the packaging is printed. By the time the rate of sale data from retailers tells you that demand has shifted, you're already holding 3 months of inventory based on the previous forecast. PepsiCo's Frito-Lay division, the world's largest snack manufacturer, reported softening volumes in its North American snack segment in 2023 and 2024. The company attributed some of this to price elasticity. Analysts who follow the sector identified a second factor, GLP-1 adoption among its core consumer base. The same pattern was visible at Mondelez International, the company behind some of the world's most recognizable biscuit and confectionery brands. Volume in its core snacking categories grew slower than revenue in 2023, reflecting the combination of price increases and lower unit demand. By 2024, volume growth had stalled in several key markets. The inventory problem is made significantly worse by shelf life. Unlike electronics, which depreciate in value but do not expire, food has a biological clock. Crisps manufactured in April with a 6-month best before date must be sold, discounted, or disposed of by October. If they are still in the warehouse in August, the operator faces an accelerating problem. The food brokerage industry exists precisely for this moment. Brokers act as intermediaries between manufacturers sitting on excess inventory and buyers who need product below cost. Their phone lines in 2023 and 2024 were busier than they had been in years. Near date is the industry term for product approaching its best before date at a speed that makes full price sale impossible. Near date product is sold at significant discounts, sometimes 70, 80, 90% below the original wholesale price, to clear warehouse space and recover some margin before the product becomes unsellable entirely. The secondary market for near date and surplus food is the part of the food supply chain that the major manufacturers do not discuss in earnings calls. It is where the inventory goes when the mainstream channel cannot absorb it. Food liquidation is an industry most people have never encountered. It operates in the gap between the mainstream supply chain and the disposal bin. When a food manufacturer or distributor has product it cannot sell through normal channels, because it is near date, because it was overproduced, because a promotional commitment did not materialize, it enters the liquidation stream. The liquidation broker buys surplus inventory in bulk, often by the ton, often sight unseen from a specification, and resells it at a margin to a wide range of secondary buyers. Discount retailers, cash and carry operators, market traders, dollar stores, food banks, and the informal catering sector. The economics of food liquidation are counterintuitive. Near-date product with a retail value of thousands of dollars sells for hundreds. The buyer gets branded product at a fraction of wholesale cost. The manufacturer recovers something, anything, rather than incurring the cost of disposal. Both sides claim to win. Neither is entirely right. The distribution of liquidated food through discount retail channels is not a new phenomenon, but the volume flowing through these channels in 2023 and 2024 was notably higher than in previous years. Liquidation brokers reported significantly increased order volumes from snack category suppliers. The informal food market operates at the end of the liquidation chain. Branded snack products purchased at pallet auction by a small trader, sold from a market stall at below supermarket prices with full brand intact. The manufacturer's distribution agreement forbids this. The manufacturer is not in a position to enforce it. Food banks have become a significant destination for excess food inventory. The tax treatment of food donations in several jurisdictions makes this economically rational for manufacturers. The loss on the donation is partially offset by tax relief. In 2023 and 2024, food banks across the UK and US reported significant increases in donated snack food, more than they had capacity to redistribute. Below the food banks and the legitimate discount retailers, there is a further layer: the genuinely informal redistribution of surplus food through channels that leave no trace in any manufacturer's distribution audit. This is the part of the liquidation circuit that the industry does not discuss.
The dollar store sector in the United States, represented primarily by Dollar General and Dollar Tree, in the United Kingdom by Poundland and similar retailers, operates a fundamentally different procurement model from mainstream grocery. While a major supermarket negotiates range and pricing with a manufacturer 12 months in advance, a dollar store buyer operates on an opportunistic model. The dollar store buyer's advantage is speed and flexibility, where a supermarket category manager must go through a formal ranging process, a committee review, and a planogram reset, a process that takes months. A dollar store buyer can commit to a pallet of near-date branded product in the time it takes to make a phone call. The dollar store sector has absorbed an increasing proportion of snack surplus since 2023. Buyers in this sector confirmed, in trade press interviews, without specifically naming suppliers, that the volume of branded snack product available through non-standard channels had increased substantially.
Independent convenience retailers, particularly those operating outside branded symbol group agreements, are another significant destination for surplus snack inventory. The owner-operator who attends a cash and carry and finds a pallet of branded crisps at 30% of wholesale cost does not ask detailed questions about the supply chain.
Cash and carry operators, the wholesale intermediaries that serve independent retailers, are among the most active participants in the surplus snack market. Their model already assumes significant price variation between lines. Adding near-date or liquidation product is a natural extension of their existing procurement logic. The end buyer, the person picking up a discounted packet of branded crisps at a market stall or dollar store, is largely unaware of the supply chain through which the product has passed. They see the same brand they would see in a supermarket at a lower price. The arbitrage is invisible. The liquidation economy is invisible. The GLP-1 effect that set it all in motion is invisible.
The direct store delivery model, known in the industry as DSD, is how the major snack manufacturers have distributed their products to smaller accounts for decades. Rather than delivering to a central warehouse for the retailer to distribute internally, the manufacturer's own drivers deliver directly to each store, manage the shelf, and handle the returns.
The economics of the DSD model depend entirely on volume. A route that visits 30 accounts per day is profitable when each of those accounts is ordering at a certain level. When the average order per account falls, as it has in snack categories, across markets that have seen significant GLP-1 adoption, the route maths stop working.
Route operators in the snack distribution sector began reporting reduced order sizes per stop in 2023. The same account that had been ordering 2 cases of crisps per delivery began ordering 1. The same newsagent that had carried 15 facings of a confectionery line reduced it to 8. The orders held up, but the volume per order fell.
The route restructuring process that follows a sustained volume decline in a DSD network is economically painful and operationally complex. Depots that were sized for a certain volume throughput become expensive at lower volumes. Routes that were profitable become marginal. The manufacturer faces a choice: absorb the increased cost per case or restructure. Several snack distribution depots across the United Kingdom and United States were closed or consolidated between 2022 and 2024. The companies that operated them attributed the decisions to network optimization and operational efficiency. Analysts who cover the food logistics sector noted the timing and the underlying volume data. Behind the depot closures and route consolidations are the people whose working lives were organized around them: delivery drivers, warehouse operatives, route managers, people who built careers in the infrastructure of the snack economy. When the volume declines, the infrastructure contracts. When the infrastructure contracts, the jobs go with it.
The snack food industry does not manufacture food from thin air. It manufactures it from agricultural commodities. Potato crisps begin in a potato field. Biscuits begin in a wheat field and a palm oil plantation. Confectionery begins with sugarcane and cocoa and soybean oil. Every reduction in snack production volume propagates backwards through the ingredient supply chain. Palm oil is in more packaged food products than any other single ingredient. Approximately 50% of all processed food globally contains it. The snack food sector is one of the largest buyers of refined palm oil. A measurable reduction in snack production volume is a measurable reduction in palm oil demand, and palm oil is traded globally as a commodity with transparent pricing. Sugar refineries in the United Kingdom, Europe, and the United States supply significant proportions of their output to the confectionery and biscuit sectors. The contracted volumes between refineries and manufacturers are typically set 12 to 18 months in advance. When a snack manufacturer needs to reduce production volume, the contract renegotiation is the beginning of a longer chain of pain for the ingredient supplier.
The agricultural supply chain is the most exposed to demand reduction in processed food. Farmers who grow potatoes under contract for crisp manufacturers, or sunflowers for cooking oil, or corn for high fructose corn syrup, operate on tight margins with little flexibility. A contract volume reduction of 20% can turn a viable farm operation into an unviable one.
The ingredient sector's response to reduced demand from snack manufacturers is constrained by the same structural rigidity that affects the manufacturers themselves. Long-term contracts, capital invested in processing capacity, and agricultural planning cycles that operate on a seasonal basis all mean that the ingredient economy adjusts slowly and painfully.
The downstream effects of the GLP-1 transition are not yet fully visible in commodity markets. The adjustments happen over years, not months. But the direction of travel is clear. Sustained reductions in ultra-processed food consumption mean sustained reductions in demand for the commodities from which ultra-processed food is made.
The consumer packaged goods industry is one of the largest advertisers in the world. In the United States alone, the snack food sector spends more than $15 billion annually on advertising and promotional activity. Television, digital, in-store display, sponsorship, social media, influencer marketing. The return on advertising spend in snack categories began declining in markets with high GLP-1 adoption before the food manufacturers fully understood why. Ad testing scores, the laboratory measure of how effectively an advertisement drives purchase intent, showed no degradation. The creative was working. The audience simply wanted the product less than the model predicted. Digital advertising in snack categories faces a specific additional challenge. The platforms that serve ads for snack products are also serving ads for GLP-1 medications, telehealth consultations, and weight loss services. The same consumer who sees an ad for crisps may have seen 3 ads for Ozempic in the same session. The competitive dynamic for appetite is being fought on the same screen. The strategic response of snack brands to sustained volume softness has been largely conventional. Reformulation, portion size adjustment, premium positioning, better-for-you line extensions. The challenge is that these responses were designed for a consumer who was already choosing to moderate their snack consumption voluntarily. GLP-1 users are not making a choice. The drug has chemically removed the desire. The snack food industry is not a marginal sector. In the United Kingdom, it employs more than 400,000 people across manufacturing, logistics, retail, and food service. In the United States, the figure is closer to 2 million, when the full supply chain is included. These are not primarily white-collar jobs. They are factory jobs, driving jobs, warehousing jobs.
The structural adjustment of the food manufacturing sector to sustained reductions in snack consumption will not happen quickly. Factories do not close overnight. Contracts do not unwind immediately. The ingredient supply chains do not restructure in a single quarter, but the direction is clear, and the communities that host these facilities are beginning to feel it. The GLP-1 transition is not finished. Adoption rates continue to climb. New formulations, oral versions that do not require injection, longer-acting variants, next-generation molecules from other pharmaceutical companies are entering the market or approaching approval. The pharmaceutical analysts who model this sector believe that within 10 years, a significant proportion of the developed world's overweight and obese population will have access to effective pharmacological appetite management. If those models are correct, the structural shift in food consumption patterns is not temporary. The excess inventory currently flooding liquidation networks is not a one-time clearance. The softening volumes in the snack category are the beginning of a sustained transition, not a cyclical dip. The food manufacturers, the ingredient suppliers, the distribution networks, and the advertisers who have built their businesses on the assumption that people will always want to eat more than is good for them are now operating in a world where that assumption no longer holds. The liquidation broker who is shifting pallets of branded crisps at 17 cents on the dollar does not care about pharmaceutical policy. The dollar store buyer who is snapping up near-date confectionery does not have a view on the future of obesity medicine. The driver who used to service 30 Snackers accounts and now services 22 does not track GLP-1 prescription volumes, but they are all operating inside the same transition. The drug changed what people want to eat, the supply chain is still catching up, and the pallets of surplus snacks moving through the liquidation networks, turning up at the back of dollar stores, stacked in warehouses under near-date labels, are the physical evidence of a world in the middle of a slow, enormous, largely invisible shift. The food that people no longer want as much as they once did does not disappear. It simply finds a lower price. That is the liquidation economy. That is at a very large scale and a very high speed what's happening to the snack food supply chain right now. I am off the books.